9. Jonathan Aluterio Martinez Garcia. In early 2022, a student allegedly attacked his teacher at El Dorado High School in Las Vegas during a discussion about his grades. According to reports, the conversation escalated into violence, with the student throwing punches and then choking the teacher with a phone charger cord until she passed out. She was hospitalized for her injuries. The student, later identified as Jonathan Aluterio Martinez Garcia, fled the scene and was later arrested at home. He was charged with 10 felonies, including attempted murder, assault and battery, burglary, and more. The attack came amid a disturbing uptick in violence throughout Clark County schools, which serve around 300,000 students and make up one of the nation's largest school districts. During a press conference, Clark County Education Association President Marie Nesis denied the initial claim that Martinez Garcia approached the victim to discuss his marks, stating that nothing could be further from the truth. She argued that the perpetrator walked into the classroom specifically to assault the teacher. In the aftermath of the terrifying ordeal, the school district vowed to upgrade its security by installing surveillance cameras and providing teachers with devices they can use to call for help when in danger. In the meantime, Martinez Garcia pleaded not guilty to the multitude of charges he faces. Several months after the attack, a court ruled that he's competent to stand trial. The suspect remains behind bars on $500,000 bail. If convicted, he could face life in prison. 8. Alyssa Hatcher. When Alyssa Hatcher, a high school student from Umatilla, Florida, allegedly plotted to have her parents killed in 2019, her mom and dad decided not to go easy on her. When investigators informed them of the young woman's murder-for-hire plot, they said that they were willing to prosecute. In fact, Hatcher's parents were the ones who reported suspicious activity to the Lake County Sheriff's Office, where her father was a lieutenant. After noticing two $1,400 withdrawals from their bank account, it was soon discovered that their daughter had stolen and fraudulently used their debit and credit cards. Hatcher was charged with grand theft, petty theft, and fraud. That was before detectives learned from a fellow student about the teen's alleged plans to have her parents murdered. She cracked under questioning and admitted that she spent $100 of her ill-gotten funds on cocaine and gave $400 to someone to carry out the horrific deed. When that person backed out, Hatcher allegedly admitted to paying another person $900 to see to it that her parents died. At that point, authorities tacked on a charge for criminal solicitation to commit murder. 7. Muhammad Ali. In early 2020, 19-year-old Ayanna Griffin and her boyfriend, 21-year-old Joel Bionda, were found dead in Virginia near the North Carolina border. It was clear to detectives that someone had fatally shot them, but their bodies were discovered near a vehicle following a car accident. About a week later, Virginia State Police announced that they had charged an 18-year-old student named Muhammad Ali with 2 counts of first-degree murder, as well as 2 gun-related crimes. He was at school when law enforcement showed up and took him into custody. Police failed to disclose a possible motive in the killing, but Ali was quick to confess. He pleaded guilty to all the charges against him and received 4 consecutive life sentences. But the circumstances surrounding the double homicide remain shrouded in mystery. Even when news broke of Ali's conviction and sentence, few answers were offered as to why he did what he did. Ayanna's sister told the Washington Post that she believes the couple hung out with Ali a few times, but that they didn't know each other very well. The prosecutor said that the victims agreed to give Ali a ride to Southern Virginia, 250 miles, or 402 kilometers from where they lived, so that Ali could deliver a gun to someone. But even the authorities are unsure of what Ali's reasons were, and the victims' families are left to deal with their losses without any closure. He reportedly told investigators that he began having thoughts about an hour away from his destination. Ali told Bionda, who was driving, to pull over and proceeded to shoot the young man and his girlfriend in the head. He left the crime scene in the couple's car and returned later with a friend. They took some of the victim's belongings shortly before crashing the car into an embankment, then ran off into the woods with the stolen property. Ali returned to his life as normal after the murders, but soon began telling friends about what he had done. And while it was fairly easy for investigators to hone in on him as their number one suspect, they were as baffled as anyone else as far as motives go. The young man's friends and classmates were also shocked. 6. Raphael De Comas. Nobody likes an early morning exam, but one college student took things to the extreme when his professor scheduled a final for 7 a.m. in 2018. 20-year-old Raphael De Comas was so upset about testing so early that he allegedly posted a tweet threatening to kill his data structure instructor, Carl Weiss. The Florida Atlantic University student was furious he would have to wake up at 5 in the morning or earlier in order to make it to the exam on time. He expected the train ride from his home in Riviera Beach to the campus, about 30 miles or 48 kilometers away in Boca Raton, to take 2 hours. University police traced the tweet to De Comas. When questioned, he reportedly admitted to making the threat and explained why. While his frustration was perhaps understandable, his behavior was not. After all, he certainly wasn't the university's only commuter, and nobody else reacted to the inconvenience the way he did. De Comas said that he had no real intentions of hurting anyone and pointed out that he deleted the tweet shortly after posting it. He was nevertheless arrested and held on a $5,000 bond. 5. Murad Dervish. Science professor Thomas Meixner was the head of his department at the University of Arizona until he was fatally shot in a campus office in October of 2022. A second victim was injured but survived. 11 shell casings were found at the scene. Hours later, police took 46-year-old Murad Dervish into custody. They were lucky that they caught him when they did. He was just 30 miles, 48.3 kilometers north of the Mexican border. Dervish is a former student of Meixner's, and while authorities have remained tight-lipped about a possible motive, the suspect's disturbing past was quick to surface after he was charged with first-degree murder and assault. Dervish has a long history of violence that goes back at least 11 years to a domestic violence case. In 2020, a different victim obtained an order of protection against him. She spoke anonymously with local station News 4 Tucson and described years of suffering that left her with lingering anxiety and trauma. During her ordeal, Dervish wasn't a student but was actually a teacher's assistant at San Diego State University. The woman said he had nagged her to go on dates and became confrontational and abrasive. When she made it clear she wasn't interested, he continued to persist even after she obtained a no-contact restraining order. In fact, she said that his behavior became even more bizarre. Taking all that into consideration, it may not have taken much to set Dervish off before he allegedly killed Meixner. He was reportedly fired from the University of Arizona in 2021. His former colleagues claim that he repeatedly threatened them after losing his job. They also accused Dervish of continuing to show up on campus, even though he was banned. And just 10 days before the shooting, he was evicted from his apartment. It sounds like he was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. But the exact details of what went through his mind have yet to be revealed. 4. Stephen Alston Jr. Ghost guns are firearms that are untraceable and can be assembled at home, and they've become an increasing problem in recent years due to legal loopholes that leave partially built guns unregulated. In early 2022, a high schooler in Montgomery County, Maryland, got his hands on a ghost gun and allegedly shot a classmate in a school bathroom, causing a group of students to run from the lavatory while the victim was left behind. A staff member helped to stem the victim's bleeding before he was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. In the meantime, the school was put on lockdown while police and school staff investigated. An official report of the incident said that the victim was initially hesitant to say what had happened to him, and none of the students who witnessed the shooting wanted to talk either. Investigators eventually got to the bottom of the situation and arrested 17-year-old Stephen Alston Jr. He was charged with attempted murder, assault, and several gun-related crimes. Once he was taken into custody, the lockdown on the school was lifted. Several months after the shooting, authorities announced that Alston will be tried as an adult. The case has not yet gone to trial. 3. Sean Urbansky. One morning in 2017, former University of Maryland student Sean Urbansky fatally stabbed Army Lieutenant Richard Collins III at a bus stop. Collins, who was due to graduate from Bowie State University just 3 days later, was waiting for an Uber with some friends at around 3 o'clock in the morning when Urbansky emerged from a wooded area, screamed at the group, and carried out the crazed knife attack. Urbansky is white and had suspected ties to far-right-wing politics. His victim was black, leading to suspicions that the killer was motivated by racism. He was charged with murder and initially faced an additional hate crime charge. But the prosecution failed to prove to the judge that the crime was racially motivated, and the hate charge was dropped. The first-degree murder charge stuck, and in 2020, Urbansky was convicted of the crime. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, but his lawyers have filed a motion seeking a new trial. The case has made it all the way to Maryland's highest appeals court, with the defense arguing that jurors should not have been allowed to see racist content in Urbansky's phone during the first trial. His attorneys claim that he was tried as a racist, and that it was impossible to disentangle jurors from that notion by the time the hate crime charge was dropped. One thing's for sure, regardless of the outcome of Urbansky's appeal, the college career is over for now, and his future looks much different and a lot less promising than it would have if he had chosen a non-violent lifestyle. 2. Dawood Sungur. In early 2020, a 20-year-old George Mason University student named Dawood Sungur allegedly sold homemade ghost guns, devices for turning conventional guns into automatic weapons. His biggest mistake came when he sold 8 commercially manufactured firearms to undercover detectives in Fairfax County, Virginia. And that was apparently just the beginning of Sungur's illegal sales. In addition to the 8 guns, he allegedly sold 3 pistols and 2 rifles that he assembled with parts he bought legally on the internet. These so-called ghost guns had no serial numbers and were therefore untraceable. And while it's legal to own a ghost gun, it's against the law to sell one, which led to Sungur being federally charged with dealing firearms. He pleaded guilty to the charge and admitted that he charged more for the guns with no serial numbers because they couldn't be traced to criminal activities. Sungur faced a maximum prison sentence of 5 years, but it's unclear how much time he was given. It's probably safe to assume, however, that the ordeal disrupted his college career, and that he'll have to either make new plans or resume his studies after he squares away his debt to society. 1. Maverick Stowe. In late 2020, a 17-year-old high school student from New York named Maverick Stowe decided to protest COVID-19 regulations at his school by repeatedly showing up for in-person learning on a day when he was supposed to attend class online. At the time, the school in Mastic Beach, Long Island, was alternating groups of students between remote and in-person to decrease the number of kids who were at school each day and make social distancing easier. But Stowe disagreed with this policy, and he decided to show it in a way that authorities couldn't ignore. The first time he broke the rule and came to school on his scheduled remote learning day, Stowe was suspended. But he continued to appear on school grounds, and school officials got the police involved. In a statement, the school district described the young man's behavior as a publicity stunt and accused him of wearing a neon green shirt for maximum visibility. Officials said that if he continued to show up at the building, classes would be virtual for the foreseeable future for all 3,000 students. Most parents are upset when their kids get in trouble with the law, but Stowe's mother and father stood by his belief that students belong in school. Speaking with ABC 7 New York, Richard Stowe said that when his son explained his plan to protest the rules, he said, "Go for it." Unfortunately for Maverick, he was suspended for the entire year for protesting the remote learning policy. The school district encouraged him to take his advocacy to New York State's elected officials. Thanks for watching. If you were a student and disagreed strongly with a school policy, would you protest against it at the risk of being suspended or expelled? Or would you keep your frustrations to yourself and just accept the rules for what they are? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.